You've been taught to chase money as if it were freedom itself. But what if that chase is the very trap that keeps you poor? Think about it. From the Medici bankers of Florence to the tech titans of Silicon Valley, the wealthiest people in history share one hidden truth. They never actually chased money. They controlled its illusion. Centuries ago, Machiavelli saw this clearly. He understood that the real battle isn't about coins or ledgers. It's about perception. Money isn't power itself. It's the game of belief, the subtle theater where a symbol becomes a measure of influence. And if you don't understand the game, you're not playing, you're being played. Most people equate money with worth. They measure their lives through balances, stock prices, promotions, luxury cars, and designer labels. But Machiavelli reminds us, men judge more by what they see than by what they feel. The balance sheet is visible. Influence is invisible. Appearance always wins over capacity in the human mind. Look around how many people are hunched over, obsessed with numbers, comparing themselves endlessly. We've mistaken the record for the reality. It's like a general who polishes maps without ever stepping onto the battlefield, or a chef who worships cookbooks but never cooks. The chef memorizes recipes, quotes them in conversation, collects rare additions, but the kitchen stays cold, ingredients rot, and the guests starve. He has mastery on paper but none in substance. This is precisely what we've done with money. We've fallen in love with the recipe and forgotten the feast. Pause for a moment. Forget the screens, the markets, the currencies. Take a deep breath. Feel the air filling your lungs. That breath, that is real wealth. The warmth of coffee in your hands, the roof over your head, the quiet safety of knowing you can sleep tonight without fear. These are riches kings once prayed for. Love, presence, acknowledgement. These are treasures money can't buy. Money is merely the code we use to exchange these things. Think about it. The Florentines, the Medici, even Machiavelli himself witnessed this alchemy firsthand. Value turned into paper, paper turned into power. But at some point, the symbol became more seductive than the substance. We began collecting numbers instead of creating value. The tragedy is that in our obsession with accumulation, we've lost the instinct for joy. A child with a cardboard box can invent entire worlds. A billionaire with warehouses full of toys often finds himself empty. The child sees joy in creation. The adult sees it only in possession. We measure square footage, horsepower, thread count, but when was the last time you measured the quality of your sleep or the number of genuine smiles you had today? We've become engineers of surfaces and amateurs of the soul. Here lies the cruel irony of modern civilization. We live with more comfort, access, and tools than the Caesars of Rome ever dreamed of, yet anxiety, restlessness, and fear of scarcity are higher than ever. You can travel across oceans in hours, summon food with your thumb, connect with someone on the other side of the planet instantly, and still feel poor. Why? Because we've been conditioned to measure life through symbols of scarcity, not abundance. We chase the code, not the wealth it represents. Machiavelli observed this principle in politics too. People are not governed by force, but by perception. Similarly, the illusion of wealth now rules like the illusion of power once did. You may own every coin in Florence, but if you feel deprived, you are poorer than a beggar who sleeps in peace. Our maps, plans, 5-year strategies, and financial projections are seductive, but remember, no map survives first contact with reality. The map is never the territory. You can memorize every contour of the terrain, yet if you never walk it, you will never know it. Financial planning works the same way. You can map out every year of your life, yet if you never learn to feel alive, your fortune is nothing but a corpse embalmed with precision. The more we measure, the more we lose the measure of things. The more we plan, the more we postpone living. Like power itself, life cannot be captured. The harder you clutch it, the faster it slips away. And here is the subtle, cunning truth. This isn't a condemnation of money. Machiavelli would never insult a tool of such potential. The point is to understand it, to see it for what it is. An instrument, Nothing more, nothing less. A ruler who confuses his sword with his rule soon loses both. A man who equates his bank account with his identity becomes a servant to what was meant to serve him. Money is your instrument, not your master. Think of it like a musician and a piano. The piano isn't the music, it merely allows music to exist. The musician doesn't worship the instrument or confuse himself with it. He plays it, and if he is skilled, the world listens. The question becomes, what symphony are you composing with your life? Are you using money to conduct your music, or are you letting it drown out your song? The deeper you go into this idea, the clearer it becomes. Our confusion over money is only one symptom of a much larger hypnosis. Society mistakes symbols for substance everywhere. Status for respect, fame for legacy, comfort for freedom. Once you start noticing this pattern, once the illusion cracks, real education begins. You start seeing the invisible strings behind the game. You begin to understand how entire nations, not just individuals, are led by illusions. And then, Machiavelli's words hit differently across centuries. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. The shocking truth? The system doesn't need to actively deceive you. You're already hypnotized. Every great illusion starts with a kernel of truth that we worship for too long. Take money itself. It began as brilliance, as practicality. Men no longer had to lug chickens and goats across markets. They created symbols of value, promises you could trust. Gold coins, seals, contracts, all were revolutionary. The system simplified life. But brilliance became a spell. The servant became a sovereign. And like any masterful trick, nobody noticed when the game changed. What was meant to simplify life started to dominate it. Coins became power. Power became identity. And identity became the endless game. And what a game it is. Invisible armies of numbers, trades, graphs, projections moving forever with shifting goalposts. You can play endlessly and never win. That single word win has enslaved more minds than any dictator in history. More money, more freedom, more security, it always feels just out of reach. Picture the modern man. He wakes up, checks his balance, feels a brief relief, then immediately hungers for the next promotion, the next raise, the next title. He believes he's climbing, but he's on a treadmill disguised as a staircase. Machiavelli warned of this. He wrote about rulers chasing favor, promise to promise, always believing the next indulgence would bring peace. It never does. Zen masters call this the hungry ghost, a being with a massive stomach and a tiny throat, always starving, never satisfied. Machiavelli saw the same psychology in rulers. Desire is natural, but when it blinds you, you become enslaved by it. The man who cannot master his own hunger becomes its servant. And this is the essence of our modern malaise. The problem isn't money, it's hypnosis. We forget that money is a system, a shared story we've collectively agreed to believe. The florin, the dollar, the yen, they exist because we pretend they do. And like all myths, they work only as long as we do. The Machiavellian truth about money is this: it's the most powerful illusion humans have ever agreed to protect. And the system behaves exactly like a machine, programmed to grow, accumulate, and expand without conscience, without empathy, indifferent to human suffering. More plastic in the oceans, more men working jobs they hate, more exhaustion, more anxiety. The system doesn't care. It simply obeys its code. Growth is its only objective. But unlike the machine, you can wake up. You can question the code. You can play the game without letting it play you. And here's the cruel genius of the system. It ensures you'll never feel like you've won. Victory is always just one step away. When I hit 6 figures, I'll rest. When I buy the house, I'll feel secure. When I retire, I'll finally live. The system keeps your eyes on tomorrow, so it can rob you of today. That's how kingdoms keep their citizens obedient, not with chains, but with hope. Not with violence, but with the dream of someday. This is exactly what the Medici did. Control the flow of money, and you control the flow of dreams. Keep people running, and they never stop to ask who built the maze. That's modern life distilled. We are citizens of an economy designed to feel perpetually out of reach. Every ad whispers, "You're one purchase away from peace." Every headline reminds you of lack. Every screen is an altar on which we pray for enough. And like obedient subjects, we hand over the present to chase a future that never arrives. But what if you could see through it? What if you stopped chasing the horizon and realized that the ground beneath your feet is already fertile? Machiavelli understood this too. Fortune isn't something you chase, it's something you position yourself to receive. Fortune, he said, is like a woman. If you wish to keep her under your control, you must beat and ill-use her. In modern terms, this isn't cruelty, it's strategy. Dominate the game, or be dominated by it. And how do you dominate it? Not by rejecting the illusion, but by mastering it. The powerful never abandon money. They manipulate it. They understand the game is a theater, a grand ritual of collective imagination. The Medici financed popes and wars using the very system that enslaved peasants, but they never confused the ledger for the kingdom. They knew power was psychological, not numerical, and you can learn to do the same. Here's the paradox. You cannot escape the game of money, but you can play it like a sovereign, not a servant. You can engage without being consumed. The first step in this Machiavellian awakening is to stop treating money as salvation and start treating it as strategy. Once you see that money is not a god but a tool, a game, the real power begins to shift. This begins with what Machiavelli called the free hand, the art of playing with mastery, without fear, without attachment. To handle money properly, there are two approaches, the clenched fist or the open palm. The first suffocates life, the second directs it. The tight-fisted man hoards his coins like a tyrant, guards his throne, suspicious, fearful, calculating. His money never works because he never lets it move. It is blood locked in a jar, incapable of nourishing or creating. I once knew such a man, let's call him Lorenzo. He lived like a ghost among his possessions. Savings that could last a lifetime, yet every purchase tortured him. Every receipt was interrogated like an enemy. Every expense, a battle report. Machiavelli would have called him a prince, trapped behind his own fortresses, isolated, powerless, imprisoned by walls of his own making. But the opposite extreme, the spendthrift, is equally enslaved. The man who throws money like confetti worships abundance instead of scarcity. Both are prisoners, one of fear, the other of illusion. The truly powerful man plays the middle path, firm but fluid, decisive yet detached. Money is not meant to be buried. It is a river, not a lake. Stop its flow, and it stagnates. Let it flood without control, and it destroys. Guide it, and it irrigates your entire kingdom. This is why true wealth builders treat spending as strategy, not guilt. Every coin released becomes a soldier sent to expand influence, acquire value, build alliances, and construct infrastructure. Conscious spending transforms money from symbol back into substance. Ink on a screen becomes creation, connection, experience. Before any transaction, ask yourself, does this enrich my life in essence or just in appearance? Will it buy time, knowledge, vitality, or peace, or only vanity? The ancients knew this. Money is a terrible master, but an excellent servant. The tight-fisted man serves gold. The free-handed man commands it. And here's the Machiavellian paradox. The free-handed often grow richer than the hoarders. Fear clouds perception. Courage sharpens it. When you are not terrified of loss, you see opportunity. When you don't strangle resources, you use them as weapons. Fear freezes movement. Mastery propels it. The Medici knew this. They invested when others panicked, risked when others hesitated. Fortune wasn't built on safety. It was built on timing, strategy, and calculated courage. Every coin was deployed like a general, sends soldiers to expand territory. Money in motion creates value, just as power in motion creates influence. Now, consider your work. The modern employee trades hours for dollars and wonders why he feels exhausted. He trades life force for symbols, saying, "I'm only doing this for the money," not realizing that statement is a confession of slavery. The free-handed player treats work like warfare. Every project a campaign, every effort a chance to create lasting value. He asks, "How can I multiply this value? How can I make my work indispensable? How can I serve in a way no machine, no competitor, no algorithm can replace?" This isn't about quitting your job. It's about changing your psychology. You can be a clerk, artist, strategist, or merchant, but you must play consciously, as a creator of value, not a beggar of wages. Machiavelli warned princes not to rely on mercenaries. The same applies to your life. If your livelihood depends entirely on someone else's approval, you've already surrendered your kingdom. Work like an artist, and you become irreplaceable. Think like a strategist, and you become unbreakable. As you begin to play with a free hand, something subtle happens. Money starts losing its emotional grip. It becomes clay, a medium to shape, not worship. Every dollar spent becomes a vote for the world you want to build. Buy chaos, you finance decay. Spend on excellence, you expand civilization. The wealthy understand this instinctively. Money is not a mirror of worth. It is a projection of will. The stronger your will, the more your projection shapes reality. But none of this happens without curiosity. You must study money the way Machiavelli studied politics. Trace its flow. Understand who benefits when fear controls you, and who profits when you stay small. Money, like power, gravitates toward those who can handle it. Once you see this, wealth becomes circulation, not accumulation, a living organism. Money in its purest form is creative energy. You don't hoard energy, you direct it. You don't beg for it, you channel it. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The wise man acts, the fool hesitates, clings, and calls it prudence. To master money, you must stop playing to avoid loss and start playing to create. Because here's the ultimate Machiavellian secret. Those who treat money as art end up with both wealth and art. Those who treat it as survival end up with neither. And once you grasp this, once you see every financial choice as an act of creation, something extraordinary dawns on you. Wealth was never external. The true treasure was never in the numbers. It was in the consciousness directing them. The shift from the bank to the mind is the beginning of freedom. Freedom, as Machiavelli understood, is not given. It is seized. At the heart of all of this lies one simple yet profound truth. Real power comes from awareness. The man who sees clearly cannot be ruled by princes, by systems, or by illusions. And once you see money for what it is, a servant, a shadow, a symbol, you start uncovering the only wealth that cannot be stolen, taxed, or devalued: consciousness itself. Alan Watts once described the mind as an aperture through which the universe observes itself. Machiavelli would have agreed, though in his language, to rule your life, first rule your perception. The masses chase coins, followers, comfort, and status, while the sovereign mind studies itself. Whoever defines value controls the world, not whoever accumulates the most symbols. Let me give you an image. Two men sit on the same bench, watching the same sunset. One is rich by every measure: tailored suit, golden watch, a life cataloged in symbols of success. Yet his eyes never leave the glowing screen. His mind trades shadows of wealth. The other man is barefoot, worn from the streets, with nothing but a paper cup beside him. And yet his face, lit by the dying sunlight, looks serene, almost regal. The wealthy man has everything except presence. The poor man has nothing except it. Now, who truly holds the greater fortune? We've forgotten that the most important treasures are those the system cannot sell. Sunlight on your skin, laughter from someone you love, the quiet between thoughts, the effortless miracle of breathing, all free, all priceless. Our civilization has achieved godlike control over matter, yet lost all reverence for being. We have more than any age before us, yet feel poorer than ever, because the wealth that truly matters cannot be measured. The real aristocracy is internal: self-mastery, composure, intelligence. and the ability to see through illusion. Trace the path we've taken. First, the confusion of measure with treasure, mistaking your account balance for your identity. Second, the hypnosis of the future, always chasing, never arriving. Third, liberation through the free hand, playing the game without being possessed by it. And now, we reach the core, the discovery that you are the asset. There are only two kinds of wealth, symbolic and actual. Symbolic wealth is money, status, possessions, credentials. Actual wealth is consciousness, vitality, time, peace, and influence. The first is borrowed, the second is owned. The first can vanish overnight, the second endures until death. A king stripped of gold can still command if his mind is intact. A billionaire terrified of losing wealth is already poor. Think about it. If you owned every asset on earth but slipped into a coma, what would it be worth to you? Nothing. The market would move, trades would continue, but you would not exist to enjoy them. Wealth without awareness is a corpse with jewelry. The powerful know this. True elites protect their minds before their money. They invest in clarity, perspective, and psychological discipline. Machiavelli said, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Times change, markets fall, fortunes shift, but an adaptable mind remains rich. Awareness dissolves fear. Fear enslaves. Fear of loss, fear of poverty, fear of humiliation. But when you grasp that your worth is independent of your net worth, your decision-making sharpens. You stop begging for opportunity and start creating it. You negotiate smarter, invest bolder, and lead with confidence. You stop trading life for symbols and begin using money as it was meant to be used, as a weapon, a lever, a bridge, not a cage. If you're buried in debt, don't identify as in debt. Identify as a strategist neutralizing a threat. Treat it like warfare, not shame. Machiavelli would remind you, fortune favors the bold, but only the disciplined bold. Planning for retirement? Don't turn it into a lifelong panic attack. Prepare as a tactician prepares defenses, but never forget to live while the war still rages. Building wealth isn't about accumulating symbols. It's about creating value others cannot. Ask yourself, what can I give to the world that even kings would pay for? The Medici didn't accumulate gold by chasing coins. They created systems that made others dependent on their capital. That is the difference between earning and ruling. This understanding doesn't erase financial challenges, it transforms how you face them. The man who fears money is enslaved. The man who respects it but does not worship it, commands it. The man who laughs at its illusions becomes untouchable. And once you reach that level, once you stop clinging and start commanding, the game becomes enjoyable. You play with style, freedom, and mastery. Spending is no longer escape, it's participation. Building is no longer greed, it's expression. Giving is no longer guilt, it's power. Every coin becomes a tool to sculpt reality. Every dollar spent becomes a declaration of intent. Every investment reflects your philosophy. And even without a single transaction, you grow richer because you've understood the true economy, the exchange between consciousness and creation. The currency isn't paper, it's perception. Here's your invitation. The next time you touch money, a coin, a bill, a number on a screen, pause. See it for what it is, a beautifully efficient illusion born of human agreement. Appreciate it, yes, but don't kneel before it. Then look around. The air you breathe, the light on your skin, the pulse in your wrist, the awareness watching itself right now. That is the treasure Machiavelli would guard most fiercely. The greatest wealth is not in vaults. It's not written in ledgers. It's in the quiet realization that the gold you've been chasing was flowing in your veins all along. The empire was never outside. You are the empire. And here's the final, subtle truth. Mastering money is the gateway to mastering life. All the financial strategy, all the freehand thinking, all the conscious spending ultimately trains you to command your perception, your choices, your emotions. Once you can handle that, money becomes an amplifier, not a master. And that is the Machiavellian victory that no ledger, no market, no system can ever take from you. The last step of this journey is simple but profound. Realize that you are the ultimate asset. Every strategy, every principle, every insight, from Machiavelli, the Medici, or the modern masters of wealth, points to this. Money, status, possessions, they are external, symbolic, fragile. Consciousness, vitality, time, and presence. These are internal, real, and indestructible. Consider the paradox. A king stripped of his gold can still command if his mind is intact. A billionaire terrified of losing wealth is already poor. Why? Because fear enslaves, and fear starts in the mind. Wealth without awareness is nothing more than dead weight, a corpse adorned with jewelry. True power, the kind Machiavelli admired in rulers, comes from psychological mastery, from the ability to perceive reality clearly and act decisively within it. The first principle of the Machiavellian approach to money and life is to see through illusions. Every financial transaction, every contract, every investment is a narrative, a story we agree to believe. Stocks have value because we believe they do. Money has power because we believe it can shape reality. Fortunes rise and fall, not simply on numbers, but on perception. Learn to read the currents of belief, and you no longer get swept away. You navigate them, you shape them. Next comes the principle of the free hand. Money is not a cage. It's a tool, a medium, a river. Clench it, and it stagnates. Let it flow uncontrolled, and it destroys. The mastery lies in conscious guidance. Spend strategically, invest deliberately, and use your resources to expand influence, create value, and cultivate relationships that endure. Each decision is not about accumulation, but about circulation. Money, like energy, thrives only when directed consciously. This is the psychology of the sovereign mind. Fear of loss paralyzes, greed without strategy blinds. But when you act from awareness, every coin, every hour, every effort becomes a lever of creation. The Medici didn't hoard, they orchestrated. Every investment, every loan, every alliance was part of a system that amplified their influence. Their wealth was not measured in gold alone, but in control over perception, over belief, over society itself. And now, imagine applying that mindset to your own life. Your job, your business, your creative output, treat each as a campaign. Ask not, how much will I earn? But what value can I create that cannot be ignored, that cannot be replicated, that outlasts me? Think like an artist, act like a strategist, spend like a general deploying troops. Every choice becomes an act of creation, every action a statement of intent. This is what separates the free-handed from the enslaved. The free-handed man commands money, presence, and perception. He is never a victim of circumstance. The hoarder, the spendthrift, the obsessed, these are the men played by symbols, trapped in illusions. Master the tools without being possessed by them, and you become untouchable. Money, fear, desire, they become clay, instruments for shaping your kingdom, rather than chains binding your spirit. Then comes the final awakening, presence over possession. The wealthy man, the one obsessed with numbers, the one enslaved by the ledger, may have everything yet have nothing. The barefoot man, present in the moment, awake to experience, has everything yet owns nothing. What matters is consciousness. Wealth is not measured by accumulation, but by awareness. How fully you inhabit your life, how deeply you connect, how freely you move. Pause and reflect. The sunlight warming your skin, the air filling your lungs, the laughter of someone you love, the quiet moments between thoughts, the miracle of simply being alive. All of this is wealth the system cannot tax, cannot control, cannot devalue, and yet we walk past it hypnotized, mesmerized by symbols, coins, numbers, status. We have godlike control over matter, and yet surrender mastery over our own minds. Machiavelli would have smiled at the irony. He knew the difference between rulers who commanded perception and subjects who served it. The lesson is timeless. The empire was never outside you. You are the empire. Coins, investments, power plays, they are tools. Consciousness is the kingdom. Presence is the crown. Awareness is the treasury. Every financial choice, every investment, every act of creation becomes an opportunity to exercise sovereignty. You don't chase money, you direct it. You don't beg for influence, you cultivate it. You don't accumulate symbols, you create substance. Each decision is a reflection of discipline, of clarity, of courage. And as you learn to act from this place, you notice something extraordinary. Wealth flows naturally, not because you strive for it, but because you have mastered the mind that perceives it, the hand that directs it, and the heart that values it. This is the ultimate Machiavellian truth. The man who understands money, fear, desire, and perception controls his own life. The man who masters his mind commands his kingdom. The man who sees through illusions laughs at their power. Symbols serve him, they do not enslave him. And in that moment, all the treasures of the world, gold, titles, possessions, become secondary to the sovereign wealth of consciousness, presence, and freedom. So here is your invitation. The next time you touch a coin, a bill, or a number on a screen, pause. See it for what it is, a brilliant, efficient illusion. Appreciate it, but do not kneel before it. Then, look around. The air you breathe, the pulse in your wrist, the awareness observing itself. That, and only that, is the wealth that cannot be taken. That is the empire no ledger can capture. That is freedom, alive and unbound, flowing through your veins. The empire was never outside you. It has always been inside. And now, for the first time, you are awake enough to rule it.